Okay, so the next deck has a little more promise than the Madness deck, I think. So it's based on the Rakdos Arcanist decks that were popular in the previous standard. Basically, you want to fill the graveyard with a bunch of cheap 1-mana spells and get them back with Dreadhorde Arcanist. And we've got quite a suite here. We've got All-Stars from the previous format. We've got Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize, which are important to disrupt the combo elements and the control decks of the format, which is basically all there is right now. Unholy Heat is one of the all-star removal spells of the format. It's hard for it to really shine because there are no real creature decks anymore, so what does it really accomplish? We do have Darcy, which is particularly at home in this deck because we trigger it a lot with our 1-mana spells, which can actually realistically trigger its Delirium. So we do get the 3/3 fairly often. We have Kroxa as well for a little bit of resilience against the control decks. It does make us a little less soft to Prismari Command than we were the previous deck. Season Pyromancer, also a 4 of in this deck. I don't think it's as good. We're less likely to be Hellbent than we were in the previous deck with Madness. So a lot of the time we are going to be forced to discard spells when it comes discard cards when it comes into play, and we don't get payoffs for discard here like we did in the Madness deck. But still, one of the better graveyard effects in the format. K Command is also not all that special. You can destroy Treasure Token, which against the Indomitable Creativity decks can be pretty relevant to try to fizzle that. And you can try to keep them hellbent for a little longer by making them discard a card. Not all that great. And then we have the 2 Planeswalkers as well. We have 2 copies of Chandra Torch of Defiance, obviously just a really great Planeswalker. And we've got Davriel as well, who I am not a huge fan of, at least in terms of this card's power level. But I've been assured that the offers and conditions tend to put you ahead more than they put you behind, especially because you get to choose the offer and condition. We don't use the Perpetually effect. There's no Vesperlark here. We're just using Davriel as a fair Planeswalker. Mana base is pretty solid. 2 copies of Den of the Bugbear to try to play around Wrath effects or as a mana sink when we have nothing left to do. Let's give this one a go. Yeah, something is going to have to happen, I think, to shake up this historic format because the Jeskai decks are just way too good. It forces out everything else. All right, so we have Unholy Heat. If by some minor miracle we are up against a creature deck, Prox is not terrible on turn 2. K Command is not terrible on turn 3. Davriel's not terrible on turn 4. It's fine. It's not my favorite hand in the world to keep, but we'll give it a try. Opponent mulligans again. So this could be like, okay, they've mulliganed 3 times. So this could be the Throes of Chaos deck, the Tybalt Trickery. If we draw our hand disruption, then I think we're in a great spot. If we don't, then I think we're in a terrible spot. We'll just have to see how it goes. We'll get the Fabled Passage out of the way on turn 1. Hey, Vincent. Good to see you. It's going pretty well. Oh, so this is not the Throes of Chaos deck, or at least not necessarily. Llanowar Elves. So that's a decent Unholy Heat target. I think we're going to fetch Mountain here. Den of the Bugbear. Okay. We're just going to cast this now. Opponent's mulligans. This could be devastating to them if they kept like a 1-lander hoping their elf would get them there. Targnar. Okay, so this is like a Bard class deck or something. So we have the option to K-Command away this Targnar as well. And then the following turn we'll be able to Davriel, which is pretty sweet. What's the alternative? The alternative is we can like Kroxa this turn, get them down to 1 card in hand, and the following turn we'd be able to Darcy plus K-Command their last card, which also seems really good, honestly. It does mean that we're going to need to shock in this Blood Crypt. It does mean we're going to take 2 from the Targnar. I think this is just greedy to not play the K-Command here. All we really get from the experience is getting 1 Surveil off the Darcy. So you will discard, and we'll kill the Targnar. Yeah, it's been a while since you've been in here, Vincent. It's also been a little while since I streamed, so no harm, no foul there. Just embrace the fact that you're here. Well, it discards Colossus. Alright. And Rada is a good one. So Davriel can just minus to kill this Rada, and I think we're in excellent shape if we do that. So let's just go ahead. We can actually also plus. And if they attack with the Rada, they have to sacrifice it, which is pretty sweet. The only reason not to leave Rada in play is if we're worried about them making an extra land drop for a turn. And I'm just not. So. Because obviously they're Hellbent, so they can't really make an extra land drop that effectively. If they have, like, Questing Beast, Davriel will still live. There's Bard class, sure. Do they know how Davriel works? They do. Okay. So... I think here... We don't have a way to kill this Rada, so I kind of like continuing to plus Davriel until we have a more solid answer. Let's just play 2 Darcys and a Kroxa. Obviously, we don't want this Bard class to go off, but I think we could kill them before that happens. Davriel will get us value eventually, once we decide to minus him. Crusher Giant's a good one. Alright, so can we minus Davriel now? Kind of like it. Because now if they attack with the Rada, we can just jump with the Darcy, and maybe if we can enable Delirium, maybe we can even trade. So let's see what we get. So we can return 2 creatures from the graveyard to our hand, can make our spells permanently cheaper, or we can gain 2 whenever we draw a card. I think I just like refetching the Darcy and the Kroxa. Christmas with the host. Good to see you. How are you doing, Christmas? It's been a little while since I've seen you two. And what's the cost? What are we willing to pay Davriel for the experience? I don't think we're going to get milled. I'll take this one. And Kroxa perpetually getting +1/+1 is actually pretty sweet. Not going to lie. Alright, so we'll lead with Kroxa, I suppose. Although I don't think the sequencing actually matters that much. And here's Darcy. And here's Arcanist. And you're go. How have you been, Christmas? How did your... it was a host, it wasn't a raid. Did you stream earlier today? I assume you did. You're, like, constantly streaming. So opponent finds their 4th mana, so they can level up the Bard class if they like. They won't be able to play the Bone Crusher Giant if they do. Arcanist is really just a 1/3 at this point. We don't have any way to enable Delirium for the Unholy Heat yet. We do have creature instant land, so if we draw some sort of sorcery, then we'll be able to flash it back with Arcanist and kill basically anything. So there's Bone Crusher. So attacking with Rada, I don't think we're really interested in letting Davriel take 3 here. Right? Because instead, we can just minus Davriel to kill one of these 2 creatures the following turn. We actually also actively want our stuff to go to the graveyard to be able to escape Kroxa, which also seems pretty good. So let's actually do that. If we triple block, we still don't get to kill Rada because of the first strike. Still think I like this. Both of these things will go to the bin, and we'll get to bring Kroxa back next turn. Oh, they won't both go to the bin. Oh, because of the way they ordered it. They explicitly prevented us from doing that. That's kind of cool. But we did draw the discard spell, which is pretty great. Bin that. Bin that. Bin that. Holy crap. Okay. And back comes Croxa. So what do we want? We can get rid of K command, get rid of one of the lands. We have to keep two things. Which things do we want to keep? We want to keep one of the lands, and I think we want to keep the sorcery. Everything else is easier to get in to the bin. Sequencing-wise, that was a mistake, right? Because now these don't have the don't have Delirium anymore. That said, let's just get rid of this Bone Crusher Giant, get in, and Croxa will dominate the board. And we win. Cool. So opponent did like mulligan to 4 that game, so we shouldn't get too excited. But I think this probably does get better for us after board, not worse. So Feed the Swarm is actually a reasonable answer to Bard class. I think we like that one. Fatal Push, also pretty good. Bloodchief's Thirst answers a good chunk of their deck as well. The Thoughtseize is... I don't know how we feel about the Thoughtseize, right? Like, most of the cards in their hand are exactly the same, except for the Bard class. And if they get the Bard class, then on the play, they stand a pretty good chance of dodging our hand hate. And then if we draw it later in the game, it's not so great. But it is also guaranteed to hit something where a Duress is not. So I think maybe we keep in some number of them. I think the K commands are pretty weak. They did work that game, killing the elf and discarding their card from hand after they mulliganed. But they're unlikely to do that again. So I think I'm okay cutting all of the K commands. Ox is like reasonable as an escape threat to like gum up the board a little bit. Arcanist plus Thoughtseize is like one of the core things our deck is trying to do. I don't really want to cut that. We might have a difficult time defending our Planeswalkers, so I could see an argument for cutting those. Seasoned Pyromancer just seems so weak. We don't have great ways to discard them either. I think I'm fine cutting a couple of the Pyromancers and going with this. They haven't shown us any graveyard synergies yet, so I think this is fine. Okay, so we have 1 mana removal, we've got Darcy, we've got Croxa, we've got our Planeswalker. This is pretty sweet. I think we're happy with this hand. The sequencing is a little bit awkward in terms of lands. Why don't mulligans again? We're gonna keep. So I think the plan is turn 1 Swamp. Well, we'll see what they do. Okay, so now it's gonna be turn 1 Bugbear, get the Darcy in play. That's the 4th land we needed for Davriel as well, so I think the Swamp is like an okay draw. They do have Bard class at this time. So... here, I think we're just playing Croxa. We don't have, like, the Bloodchief's Thirst is instant speed, so we don't have any real way to use that. We could be in for a world of pain here. But if we get them low on resources, then eventually they'll dump their hand to the board with the Bard class, and hopefully, hopefully they don't get any value off of it. Mana discounts aren't great when you don't have anything to use your mana on, basically. But this deck can do some pretty nasty things with Bard class in play. They choose to just kill the Darcy on sight, which is pretty interesting. We get another hand hate spell, which is also pretty nice. So let's lead with that. They find double Scavenging Ooze and Domri's Ambush. Okay, so Scavenging Ooze is coming down. They don't have the land yet to play, like, Forest, Ooze, Eat the Croxa right away. Which I think is our biggest fear. Also, just in general, Scavenging Ooze is a really frightening threat. So I think we're taking this. If they play the Ooze next turn and don't draw the land, then we'll get to Thirst it, and Croxa will live to fight another day. Year ago. We're hoping to dodge any untapped land from the opponent here. It just levels up the Bard class rather than expose their Scavenging Ooze to removal. Okay, they also get to cast their Targnar, which is pretty frightening. I kind of like Davriel minus on the Targnar here. Like we can thirst the Targnar and then not do anything else with our turn. Now, the thing is, the Thirst does answer the Targnar, and the Davriel is one of the only answers to the Bonecrusher Giant, which is eventually going to come down, but I think we just need to have faith that that's going to... faith in our deck that something is going to come that'll let us deal with this Bonecrusher, including Kroxa himself. So hopefully they don't draw the land, they play the Scavenging Ooze because they have nothing else. They did draw land, but it's tapped, so do you play the Scavenging Ooze here or not? You do. Okay, so this is outstanding for us. We can even play the Kroxa if we want. So there's nothing here but the plus. We're going to Thirst the Skoos. And if they draw another Skoos, then is there a reason to have this Kroxa in our hand? I don't think so. Because they won't have the mana to eat both. Bonecrusher Giant is coming, but hopefully so is Kroxa. We just need one more card in our bin. Rada is pretty nice. Okay. So at least they can't attack with the Rada because they'll have to sacrifice it to the Davriel. But we are flooding out pretty hard. If they kill Davriel somehow, then we do get to bring back the Kroxa, which is kind of nice. Did they draw, like, Domri's Ambush or something? Are we attacking? Okay, so they discard the elf. Okay, so Davriel will die, that's fine, and now we get to bring back Kroxa. We could have powered up the den to protect Davriel, which might have been better. Actually, it almost definitely was better. Because we still get to bring back Kroxa next turn. Fatal Push, you say? Okay. We have to exile literally everything to bring back this Kroxa, which sucks. But I think it's worth it. Yeah, we'd be in much better shape this game if I had blocked the Rada with the Den last turn. And if they do manage to kill Kroxa, then Fatal Push turns on. Okay. So, actually, we don't even have a graveyard for the Scavenging Ooze to eat, which is kind of cool. Are we attacking? I don't think there's any reason to Fatal Push on their turn. It's like that. Bloodchief's Thirst. Okay. So we can Bloodchief's Thirst the Rada, have Fatal Push available. If we attack with Kroxa and they try to double block to blow us out, we can Fatal Push the Scavenging Ooze. So I think I like that. I love this card so much, and I love the feeling of this deck when it's going off. It's just so hard to get to go off. Alright, are we blocking? Nope, just taking it. Sure. So that's brave, but probably also right. So, do we Fatal Push the Scavenging Ooze now, before they can eat more creatures next turn? I think the answer is yes. They're at 4. They're in significant danger from Kroxa. I think we're fine doing this now. They're under incredible pressure. There's Samet. So we're taking 8. That's pretty good. Vigilant Double Strike is nice. What are we doing on cards in the bin? Not great. So if we power up the Den, what happens? We attack out. Bone Crusher blocks the Den. Samet blocks the Kroxa. Everything trades. We get a 1-1. They go down to 1. And we get a Dreadhorde Arcanist in play? Okay. Actually, They could block the Den with the Samet and block the Kroxa with the Bone Crusher Giant. They take 3 down to 2. Kroxa remains in play, and all we need to do is attack with it. We also have a Dreadhorde Arcanist in play that can recur Bloodchief's Thirst next turn to kill Samet as well. I think we're still attacking here. Let's see how they block. This will be interesting. Okay. So opponent's gonna need something special to stay alive here. Not sure what they could get. And we win. Cool. Yeah, so like anything they drew would, if they played it, they would be dead to the Kroxa the following turn. So they either need to draw something that would kill us this turn or that would kill the Kroxa. And in that case, we're still attacking with 2/1/1s. So I don't think there's anything that could have kept them alive that game, that turn. Alright, so 1-0 against a not great deck. But feels good to win one. Lockjaw. We're on the play. Praise be. This hand is pretty awkward. If that was a Blood Crypt, you might be able to convince me to keep this hand. Dragon Skull, I think, pushes it a little too far. I don't think we can keep this. I mean... if we draw exactly like Mountain, this hand's pretty good. We're mulliganing, so Season Pyromancer is probably a little better than K-Command. Are we keeping a one-lander? We get exactly 1 draw at a land, and if we don't hit it, then we're in deep trouble. Ugh, I guess we're mulliganing this. Okay. We'll put back a land. And put back Pyromancer? No. Mull to 5, we want the Pyromancer. We'll put back the Darcy. Don't really like the Kozilek on our multi-5 either. Oh my god. Okay. So, Bone Crusher Giant is kind of whatever. Drown of the Lock is going to be outstanding against us. Expressive Iteration is also pretty good. We really don't want our Pyromancer getting countered, actually. Our opponent's hand is so good. That's the root problem here. I think we're taking Drown. Pyromancer basically must resolve. If they cast the Iteration, then hopefully we can draw some hand disruption, deal with that. But Drown of the Lock is basically both Counterspell and Terminate against us. Now, if they play this on black, they don't get to cast their Iteration next turn, profitably. Okay, they do it anyway. Alright. I mean, at least this doesn't die to Stomp. If we get to attack with it next turn, we get to recur the Inquisition. So they're kind of priced into casting the... They really want to cast the Iteration this turn, but they can't, because they play this on black. So we might have them in a good spot here. If they play untapped land and play Bone Crusher Giant, of course, then we just can't attack with the Arcanist anymore. Sulfur Falls tapped. Okay. Okay. That's pretty sweet. So let's start. Let's start here. That's pretty interesting, right? The opponent chose to play their Sulfur Falls tapped instead of the Blood Crypt and cast the Bone Crusher Giant. So Davriel is going to get discarded to our Pyromancer here. In all, yeah, just certainly. So we don't have a great answer to the Bone Crusher Giant. And it can just stomp the Pyromancer, which is pretty disgusting. So I guess we're just trying to be aggressive. Like, if they play the Iteration next turn, they don't get to cast their Nikki B. But we're definitely playing the Pyromancer here. Field Passage is actually reasonable graveyard food for Kroxa as well. They somehow manage to answer our board. They do play Nikki B, which is honestly pretty good for us. Just bin the Fabled Passage and play the Pyromancer again the following turn. We don't have anything to recur with the Arcanist, which kind of sucks. Find Kroxa again, which is pretty nice too. And no attacks. Your go. We are, of course, like, in significant danger of Bolus just flipping. But if they do flip him, they'll have a hard time defending him with this board. So what we're really trying to avoid is, like, a Ritual of Soot or Cry of the Carnarium or whatever removal suites these... Oh, Yeheni's Expertise. I bet this deck is playing Yeheni's Expertise. Because this reminds me of the Grixis list that Mistman was running in the last set. So Yeheni's Expertise is a beating and a half here. Do we want to draw another land if we find it? I don't think so. So let's crack this passage now. We'll fetch, I suppose, red. Find another Arcanist. So we're attacking out here and recurring the Bloodchief's Thirst, right? Kill the Bolus. Let's see if we get to go to combat. I'm not sure we will. Okay. They don't have any blue. They can't counter this. Sweet. Now if they wipe the board, we get to bring Kroxa into play next turn, too. This was a Vault of 5. And we are very in this game. Oh, look. It's Prismari Command. Again. Again. I'm getting pretty sick of this card. And it's 2 lands. Steam Vents tapped, and go. Alright. So we don't have anything to recur with the Arcanist. That's just unfortunate. But we'll go to combat anyway. If they kill any of our non-tokens, then Kroxa gets to come back. Otherwise, we can probably exile the Pyromancer, honestly. Because then they basically need to wrath the board to stay alive, and if they do that, then they'll kill 2 things, which will let us have Kroxa back the following turn. Also, if they have, like, Memory Lapse in hand, and this is game 1, so that's not entirely unrealistic, this plays around that. So let's... we don't have to do this on our turn, either. We'll just say go. I am scared of what these cards are. There's Mickey B. So that also puts another card in our bin, which is pretty cool. What card do we want to discard? If we discard the Arcanist and we draw another land, then we can play Kroxa, return Kroxa, which is probably just going to be enough to kill them. We don't draw the land, we draw Darcy. So how much are we attacking for here? They block here, we do 6, and if these two cards happen to both be lands, then this Kroxa is lethal. So let's attack. If they block either of these, again, we have to bring back Kroxa. They probably don't have the time to flip Bolas next turn either. Okay, Pyromancer's Eyes, that's fine. Down to 2. So we can escape Kroxa here. If they have Memory Lapse, then escaping Kroxa is pretty bad. We can play Kroxa from hand. I think what I like most here is just another Pyromancer on end step. Like, one of the only ways they can deal with this is to wrath the board, and we have 2 power coming into play to kill them next turn. And we'll also be able to play the Kroxa from hand next turn as well. So I think we're just saying go. Like, flipping Bolas here is nice enough, but it's not going to keep them alive when they're at 2. Grixis decks usually also don't have great life gain options either. They could be running, like, Cling to Dust, which would be kind of crushing, honestly. Cling to Dust might win them the game. But other than that, it's hard to imagine. Okay, so it looks like the plan here is to attack and flip Bolas. Yep. Okay, so what do they get back? They get back another Nicol Bolas. They could get back our Kroxa. They could get back our Davriel, I guess. But none of that's going to be good enough to win the game. Sure. Now, I'm not totally familiar with Davriel's offers and conditions, but I don't think there's anything that can save them here. Like, and again, even if there is some Davriel offer, which is just wrath the board, and I don't think there is, the Seasoned Pyromancer is going to get in for 2. This is probably more just out of the opponent's own curiosity than anything. They're just wondering what the options are. Sure. Okay. That was a mull to 5. That was pretty sweet. So what's up? Grixis control. So, not really anything special here in the way of graveyard interaction, which is kind of refreshing for a control deck in the format. We don't have to worry about that. We do want our 4 copies of Duress, that I'm sure of. Ox might be okay. I feel like K-Command kind of plays into what they want to do. Like, they're going to have their own discard as well, so maybe K-Command is bad. Let's see. This also came with a sideboard guide. I'm wondering what they have to say here. Yeah, sideboard guide likes bringing in the Ox. Cutting a couple Fatal Pushes, which makes a lot of sense, because everything they have costs 4 or more. Cutting the Bloodchief's Thirst seems aggressive. They want to cut a Kroxa as well. I'm not really sure I believe in that. I think instead, I like cutting the 3 K commands. And I think I like this more. Unholy Heat. How good a chance do we stand here of enabling Delirium? I guess is the question, right? How good is Unholy Heat? Because it does kill a lot. It's going to be tough, I think, without bringing in these, like, artifacts to enable Delirium on the Unholy Heat. So I feel like the Unholy Heats are just worse than the Thirsts. I think I prefer this. Yeah, I think this is better. Because Bloodchief's Thirst does deal with the Planeswalkers in the same way the Unholy Heat does. Obviously, it's not as efficient, but it's reliable. I can always do it. And there they are. So, if we get Thoughtseize, our hand is absolutely terrible. Well, it did mull. These Thirsts are going to be dead. Chandra, I'm not sure, isn't just going to get Memory Lapse into Oblivion. But we are on the draw, which makes things a little more keepable than usual. I'm going to keep this. I think it's close. You could convince me on any other day to mull this hand, I think. But we'll try this. Alright. So if we draw another Den, then not playing it this turn is a bit of a punish. I'm still going to play the Blood Crypt tapped. We don't know what sort of tech the opponent is running, if they have anything aggressive. They have Kroxa. Okay. Are we binning a land here? Usually against these discard decks, you don't want to bin lands, because you would rather have your lands, and then when you're top decking, be able to cast the spell immediately, rather than discard your lands, top deck a spell you can't cast, and then have it also get discarded as well. So it's tempting to keep these lands. I also just don't know that the second Bloodchief's Thirst is going to have a great target anytime soon. I'm going to pitch the Blood Crypt, though. We have 4 lands, which I think is still enough to cast anything that we would want. Duress is a pretty sweet draw. So we're going to play the Duress, I think, in the Den here. Argument for keeping the Duress to try to force through our Chandra. So they have Cling to Dust, which is a pretty good card against us. They have Baleful Mastery, which is the only current answer to Chandra. Cling to Dust is kind of a non-bow with the Kroxa. Like, they're going to compete for graveyard food, and they don't really have a lot going on. I think our best chance of winning this game is slamming Chandra. So I'm going to take the Baleful Mastery. Obviously, the Heartless Act is inconvenient, where it's going to be hard for us to activate the Den of the Bugbear safely. Some argument for taking the Cling, in case it draws them to actual gas. If we play the Darcy, it just dies to the Heartless Act. I don't think we're really interested in doing that. Doesn't look like there's anything else they're really planning on doing with their mana. They can already cast these 2 spells. I don't want to give them a target for the Heartless Act because it lets them feed their Kroxa a little bit faster. Let's just play the land and say go. If they ever do escape the Kroxa, we'll have the Bloodchief's Thirst to deal with it. This opponent has drawn 4 cards since our Duress, so we might actually not be able to resolve this Chandra, but we're going to try. Okay. That's a reasonable draw. I'm going to play the Swamp. I don't want to crack the Fable Passage for graveyard food yet in case they have some random Soul Guide Lantern to exile our graveyard. Alright, Chandra resolves. We could plus and play the Dragon's Rage Channeler, but again, they have the Heartless Act, so let's just go. Another Bloodchief's Thirst will decline. And we're off to the races here. Can the opponent deal with a Resolved Planeswalker? They should have known it was coming when we took the Baleful Mastery instead of the Heartless Act. Oh, do they have Nicol Bolas? They might. They do. Okay. So Bolas probably minuses to kill the Chandra, I would think. They could also plus Bolas. Using the Chandra ability. Wow. That is so aggressive. That is so aggressive. Here I think we're happy to just exile the Swamp, right? And now we can play Darcy eventually, and we get to Bloodchief's Thirst the Bolas. Again, playing the Darcy exposes it to Heartless Act, so it's not as good as it looks. So what's the right sequencing here? We can plus Chandra for 2, cast the Bloodchief's Thirst and the Duress. That commits us to that line as soon as we plus Chandra. We can Duress Bolus has to die, so we have to Bloodchief's Thirst. One of these cards... It's not unlikely that one of these cards is Bolus, right? But feeding their graveyard lets them get their Crocs into play a little bit sooner. I think I like just trying to take away any answers they have for Chandra. I think if Chandra stays in play, we win. So let's fetch black and do this. Hey, Harambe. Thank you for the resub. It's good to see you. And we lead with Duress, Binding, Nikki B, and Heartless Act. Okay. So now I think I'm kind of more interested in keeping the Darcy, right? Because I don't want Nicol Bolas to come into play and force me to discard the Bloodchief's Thirst. We'll cast this with the Kicker. Bolas has to die. Are we playing the Darcy or not? I think the answer is not. We'll just hold it in hand to discard to the Bolas. Oh, it does have something they can do with this mana. Another Bloodchief's Thirst, sure. So we can minus the Chandra to kill the Bolas, or we can cast Bloodchief's Thirst to get rid of the Bolas. Either way, that will allow them to bring the Croxa back next turn. It seems to me that getting Chandra to ultimate is probably going to be good enough to win the game. So let's plus see what we hit.
This'll be easy.
Bloodchief's Thirst the second. And now they can bring back Croxa if they like, but we'll get to minus Chandra, and hopefully that'll be good enough. We do need to find an answer to the Resolve Croxa. Oh, they're just playing another Nicol Bolas. Interesting. And we find another Chandra? That is so gas. Alright, let's get our Chandra emblem.
This was a waste of my time.
Cast Chandra. Oh man, we can even kill the Bolas and plus Chandra. Oh, that's outstanding. I was thinking, my line was to actually kill the Bolas with the Chandra, but this is even better.
Over here. Yup.
We can't unfortunately cast that. So now they can bring back Croxa, but we have 2 pulls at hitting instants or sorceries. And they are in a boatload of trouble. It's not over. Croxa could just carry the game if we fled out from here. But this feels... I feel pretty ahead. Croxa's back. Sell a friend. Okay. That's kind of the flood I was talking about. Let's plus.
This'll be easy.
We casting this Arcanist? Croxa's going to hit us for 9 next turn. We'll go down to 5. Or they can attack Chandra, I suppose, and we'll take 3 down to 11. Bringing back Arcanist. Playing Arcanist now does save a lot of our life total. Yeah, I think we're casting this. Upstairs. And we'll play this tap because Crox is probably going to make us discard it next turn anyway. If they attack us, there's an argument to be made for not blocking with the Arcanist and attacking to guarantee that we hit the Bloodchief's Thirst next turn. They're attacking Chandra. So, actually, no. They have Cling, but they can't cast it. They don't have the cards to escape. Do we just let Chandra die here? This is interesting. If we let Chandra... If they had removal, they probably would have just killed the Arcanist to not give us this choice, right? So we're probably going to get to untap and attack with the Arcanist. Alright. Because if they had removal, they'd just kill the Arcanist and then kill the Chandra, right? So they probably don't have removal. The only real punish is if this last card in hand is, like, exactly Cling to Dust. Which it could be. Because then we attack with the Arcanist, try to recur the Bloodchief's Thirst, and then they exile it in response. But we still, in that case, get to hit them for 5. Upkeep stop, huh? Okay. K command? They want to force me to discard this. Like, we get to yeah, okay, it is K command. That's fine. Because now we just power up the den and win, right? This is just over. They're dead on board. Yeah. Cool. So that went pretty well. I think that's 2-0. Yeah, because we beat the Gruul deck and we just beat the Grixis control pile. Alright, 2-0. Much better than the Madness deck. Feeling significantly better now. Hyperstheny. Mulligans again. We've been pretty lucky. I think every one of our opponents has had significant mulligan issues so far. I mean, Thirst is... If we're up against a creature deck, this hand's pretty great. Because we get to Thirst and then recur it with the Dreadhorde Arcanist. If we're up against Control, this hand is pretty poor. No sleeves, no companion. On average, like, Historic is mostly Izzet and Jeskai, so it's probably Control. But in that case, Crocs is one of our best cards against them anyway. I think we keep this and we're just not loving it. Snow-covered swamp. Oh, so we're up against, like, mono-black aggro. How is that matchup for us? I would think it's good. I would think we are generally good against the creature decks. Because they're kind of playing our same game plan, right? Like, they're going to want to discard a bunch of our stuff. Exactly, just like this. And one-for-one trades, especially on the draw when they've mulliganed, they're pretty good for us. So what do you take? It's probably the Arcanist, I would think. Yeah, okay. Better be. We have our own Inquisition, which is pretty nice. So let's cast this now, while we're sure that they'll have something to hit with it. Knight, okay. So are we thirsting anything here? Not really, right? Like, they're gonna be able to enable Spectacle. If they draw land... If they don't draw land, then casting the Bloodchief's Thirst here does save some damage. And if this game goes long, we probably win that game. Just because we have way more resources than the opponent does. But Bloodchief's Thirst is one of our only reasonable answers to spawn. This is close. I think I like the Summit. Which will enable us to play the Pyromancer next turn, which does stack up pretty well against these 1-toughness creatures. So they did draw the land, they did enable Spectacle, now they're going to get to spawn. Which hurts. So we have a couple options. We can either Thirst plus Kroxa, which is not bad, or we can Pyromancer. Obviously we're incentivized to get Pyromancer in play when we're closer to Hellbent than we are. But anything we can Bloodchief's Thirst will be recursive for them next turn. Like, they'll just be able to bring it right back. So that doesn't seem great. So let's hold on to the Bloodchief's Thirst, I think, until we have the mana to pay for the kicker, for the spawn. So the question then is, do we just play Kroxa Blood Crypt? Or do we play the Pyromancer here? I think it's the Pyromancer because it saves the most life. And we can bin the Kroxa too. And I think we bin the other Pyromancer as well. Is that crazy? If we bin the lands, then we're at the mercy of our deck to be able to cast the Bloodchief's Thirst, which I think we must be able to do next turn. So I think this is what we're doing. Cool. Okay. This is gonna hurt, but we'll see. Maybe we can fight our way through this. Like, if we kill the spawn, then all of a sudden things are... Wow, what an attack. So the plan then is to be able to recur one of these things. I think we're more than fine with that. They can only recur... They only have the mana to do one. And back comes the Dread Wanderer. This is fine. I think the spawn does have to die. It's going to start getting counters on it soon. I'm going to hit really hard. So I think the play here is just Bloodchief's Thirst, plan to trade with the Dread Wanderer when it attacks. And your go. Are we making this trade? We are, right? Because we want the food in the bin to bring back Kroxa. Okay. Of course, the graveyard is like all creatures, so we're not dealing with this Dread Wanderer anytime soon. They do nothing. What could that mean? Because this only activates as a sorcery. They can't do this on our turn. Do you think they don't know that? What's the alternative, right? We can either... If we bring back the Kroxa now, then that means we need to exile both of these Pyromancers. I think I'm fine just playing Darcy and holding up K-Command. Do we K-Command now? No, right? We want it. We want a target. We want them to put something in play. And while we're waiting for the opponent to make a play, how close are we to Delirium? We have creature, sorcery, and that's it. So not very close at all, actually. This is a weird play, right? Like, why aren't they bringing back the Dread Wanderer? We're casting this now because we want to be able to exile the K-Command for Kroxa. So we'll make them discard. We could bring back the Pyromancer, actually, with K-Command, which is pretty sweet. It delays Kroxa for another turn, but it also just gets us way more value. I think I like this, honestly. Nope, we don't want to be the one to discard a card. We want you to discard a card. That's sweet. Kroxa to the bin. Actually, maybe we should have kept that in hand, just so we knew we had another play to make with the Season Pyromancer. Opponent bins a Dread Wanderer. I don't understand what the opponent's doing. So I think the play here, we're just going to play the K-Command now. And in this case, I think we're just going to do 2 damage to the Gutterbones, make them discard. We can Surveil. That's fine. We want land in the bin because it helps enable Delirium. We're going to be able to attack with that. And draw 2. And that felt really good. Again, opponent did, like, mulligan that game as well. And also, it did not look like they played that game properly. I think they forgot that Dread Wanderer is only as a sorcery. They thought it was like a Scrap Heap Scrounger kind of thing. In any case, what do we want against Mono Black? So there's the possibility that we should bring in Leyline of the Void, because a lot of their threats are recursive. But that only really matters in a long game, and I think we win the long game. So Soulguide Lantern seems relatively like a good, cheap way to deal with that. Bloodchief Thirst seems reasonable against their early aggression. Not interested in Duress. Fatal Push is like okay. Feed the Swarm. I don't think they have any permanents that we really care about that much. The K-Commands are generally 2-for-1s, but they're also kind of expensive. I feel like Davriel doesn't really accomplish enough. Like, their big threat is the Spawn of Mayhem, which is a 4-4, which dodges the Davriel pretty effectively. So Davriel minuses goes to 1, and then they still have a 1/1 spawn to be able to attack hit down with, so he's not really all that impressive. A lot of this hand disruption... We're going to be on the draw, so I think the hand hate is actually a little better on the draw, because we're going to be up a card, and the 1-for-1 trades are probably good. but I can probably be convinced on the play to take out a bunch of these hand-hate spells. Season Pyromancer is going to be great when we're playing with low resources. Is this too much removal? It might be. It might be. But I like having the cheap removal instead of the K commands to be able to recur the Croxa. I think I'm going to cut the K commands. They don't really impress me. And I think I'm going to cut the 2 Davriels as well. And lean on, like, Chandra, Croxa, and Pyromancer to win us the game. Right? Okay. I'm torn. I kind of want to bring in the Ox as well. But I'm not sure what I'd cut for that in a meta time. Not sure. I'm gonna keep 7 this time. Our hand is sweet. Yeah, we're gonna keep this for sure. The sequencing is gonna be interesting. Swamp, Dread Wanderer. Okay. So, we can Thirst that Dread Wanderer and play the Darcy next turn, and... Or we can play the Arcanist next turn. And attack and recur the Bloodchief's Thirst, which is pretty good. We can also Inquisition here and clear the way for our Arcanist. It's definitely one of these this turn. Question is which. And I think... it's the Inquisition, because eventually they'll be Hellbent and this will be no good anymore. So we want to get the multiple casts of this while we can. Artwasak, Knight, Gutterbowl, and their own Inquisition. So Inquisition can take our Arcanist. Nothing else is really all that scary. Obviously, Heartwasak can kill the Arcanist too, but I think we can probably play the Darcy and Thirst next turn instead to try to coax them into killing the Darcy instead of the Arcanist. Because the Arcanist is our big spell. Gutterball, and presumably Knight? Yeah, okay. Den of the Bugbear, okay, that's fine. So I think the play here is Darcy plus Thirst. Definitely don't want that land. So presumably they'll just kill the Darcy on sight here, right? Sure. Okay, and now hopefully our Arcanist stays in play. And in fact, we can kind of make sure it stays in play now. This Summit comes in on tapped, which is pretty annoying. So if we do this, we're committing to paying 2 for the Arcanist. But if this is like a Spawn of Mayhem, which it reasonably likely is, this will whiff. Oh well. I think we have to do this. Okay, that's a good one to hit, actually. Okay, an opponent's Hellbent, which was kind of the reason that we started with our discard spells here. And now we get to recur the Bloodchief's Thirst with the Arcanist instead of the discard spell. Ha! So they can attack with everything. Not really, right? Because now we have to block the Dread Wanderer and they don't get to do anything with their mana. If we block the Gutter Bones, they'd be able to bring it back to their hand. I would like to draw a little less land. Are we killing this? I guess. I don't love it. Because it means now we don't have that Bloodchief's Thirst as a target for the Arcanist later. Yeah, maybe I'm not supposed to do that. But now we can activate the Den, if nothing else, next turn. Let's play the Summit. To hide this card. Make them think a little bit. Castle is not really what we want to see. Thoughtseize. Okay. Are we thought seizing? If this is like Spawn of Mayhem, it's one of the cards that we can't beat. I think we do have to win the game. Yeah, okay. I guess that works. That's pretty sweet. That's 3-0 with Rakdos Arcanist. Um, cool. I guess we're moving on to the next one now.